Remind me why on earth you're driving a lifted truck that you have to make as loud as possible. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here. You remember last week when I said, hey, I think I'm gonna turn off the camera in this video and immediately begin reading my new book? Hi, you notice I'm wearing the exact same shirt. It's because we're starting Sunrise on the Reaping. I'm so excited. If you haven't read it yet, this is going to be a spoiler heavy video. Period, point blank. You can watch this intro, but I do not recommend watching the whole video if you are planning on reading this book at any point in time. So, click away if you haven't finished it yet, and then you can come back to this video once you finish it. All that to say, we are going to be reading Sunrise on the Reaping. I think I'm going to be giving fairly regular updates about, like, if something big happens, or anything like that. Now, there's 27 chapters and an epilogue, so I think I'm going to divvy it up into at least 4 parts. I need to keep you guys in the loop of how the reading is going. Definitely every 7 chapters, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, guys, this is crazy. But if there is something specifically more shocking, you know I'm gonna pick up my little phone and record a quick video. That being said, this is probably the only section until the outro that I'm going to be recording with my nice camera, so keep that in mind. Things I have already noticed, because I did take a quick peek through. Well, first, I didn't even give my intro. I'm so enthusiastic to read this. I didn't give my intro. Hi, my name is Cameron. I make videos about books and reading and new releases, and sometimes I make reading vlogs, which is exactly what this is. If you can't tell, I love reading. I am excited to be doing it. Yeah, so I'm making a reading vlog about Sunrise on the Reaping. You're gonna see like my live responses, stuff like that. I'm very excited to record it. I do suspect I'm going to get at least half of it read today, but this is a reading vlog for a reason, so you know, you'll be in the loop. So yeah, we're gonna try and get as much done. If you guys don't know anything about this book, well, I'm gonna assume you know something about the Hunger Games because you did click on this video, but this book, specifically Sunrise on the Reaping, is a prequel to the original Hunger Games trilogy about Haymitch Abernathy. If you read the original trilogy, you know Haymitch was Katniss Everdeen's mentor in the Hunger Games because he was the one living District 12 victor. So, this is the story about his games and how he won those games. And we get like a brief description of it in the original trilogy. Like we learn that he ended up winning because he found out the arena was surrounded by a force field and got someone to throw their axe at him, and he ducked and the axe came back and hit that person in the head. So yeah, the other thing you need to know about this book, Suzanne Collins only writes books, according to her, only writes books when she has something to say. This book is very much against censorship and is about censorship. I mean, the one thing I noticed when I took a very quick look on the inside, there are 4 quotes here, which you can't see, hold on. There are 4 quotes here about censorship. One written by George Orwell, which we're all very familiar with. I mean, he wrote 1984 and Animal Farm, both books that very, very much are critical of propaganda and censorship. So, she has made that very clear among the press she has done, the interviews she has given, all the materials that have been released, that this is a book about censorship. And she's clearly got a lot to say on the topic. I mean, she wrote the original Hunger Games as a direct response to, hi baby, as a direct response to the US's behavior in the Middle East in the early 2000s. So yeah, she's got something big to say here. I don't know if I'm necessarily the YouTuber to tell you exactly what she has to say that's so big, but you are gonna get to see me read this and see me react to it as I'm reading it, and yeah, so that is what I got for you. I gave you guys a few weeks to read it before I released this video. So, I hope you enjoyed the book. Let me know your thoughts if you've already finished it. Please tag your spoilers in the comments in case someone decides to watch at least a portion of this video and look through the comments and they haven't read it yet. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Part 1, the birthday. Chapter 1 is finished. Collins is already coming in with some pretty heavy-handed imagery. The things we learn in chapter 1 is that Haymitch has a birthday on Reaping Day. Reaping Day is July 4th. There's that heavy-handed imagery. Reaping Day is July 4th, and it's Haymitch's birthday. Things we also know about Haymitch, he his mom is a single mom. He has a brother named Sid who is 10, so not eligible for the reaping yet. He has a girlfriend named Lenore Dove, who is a covey, which, if you read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is like Lucy Gray Baird. So yeah, kind of rural performing people. But that is his girlfriend. He has a best friend who I call, as soon as they said his name is Burdock. As soon as they talked about Burdock, I was like, I think he's an Everdeen. And then they call him Burdock Everdeen. So maybe Katniss's father, maybe like an uncle, maybe a relative, something like that. But they also mention the character Astrid March. Astrid March, who is known as kind of like a town healer and also is Burdock's girlfriend. So there's a good chance that Astrid is also Katniss's mother, maybe. Astrid works for the Donner family, which I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I really feel like the Donner family is like a family that's mentioned in the original trilogy, at least. But Maisie Donner, who at the end of the chapter becomes one of the girl tributes, was mentioned in the original trilogy because she's kind of Haymitch's buddy. But yeah, so the reaping happens and they don't call Haymitch's name. They call, obviously, 2 girls, 2 boys, because the 50th quarter quell. Nope. Not the 50th quarter quell. The 50th game, the second quarter quell, is double the contestants, essentially. But one of the boy tributes runs and gets shot in the back of the head. So I suspect next chapter, Mr. Haymitch's name is going to get called. But, we're going to see. First chapter coming out with a bang immediately. There is definitely some mention of propaganda. Specifically, Haymitch mentions the phrase, no peace. So there's slogans all over the place, like, no peacekeepers, no peace, no peace, no bread, stuff like that. So we're already getting started. I'm so sorry, my hands are shaking. We're already getting started on the propaganda thing. But anyway, that's chapter 1. I'm going to keep reading. I just finished chapter 3. We are already kind of diving into the whole propaganda thing because that one candidate who got shot because he tried to run, they kind of cut in, like Haymitch went to go protect Lenore Dove because she got caught up in stuff because there was basically like a riot essentially. And Drusilla, I believe is her name, Drusilla, who is like the Effie trinket of this game, was basically like, oh, you got in the way, so you're the new candidate. And so they took a bunch of new footage. And oh my gosh, the person in charge of the footage, it's Plutarch Heavensby, who is a major player in the original trilogy. As soon as they said his name, I was like, so he's kind of like the marketing guy, the producer probably is a better word, because he's the one getting all the footage and cutting stuff together and stuff like that. And anyway, the four candidates are tributes are Haymitch, another guy named Wyatt, Wyatt who is 18, I think. Haymitch is 16 in this book. So 16-year-old Haymitch, 18-year-old Wyatt, 13-year-old Luella, and I want to say Maisie Donner is the same age as Haymitch. Maybe a little bit younger. That's what they got going on. And then they also got to see the cut, like Plutarch's cut of like what happened, and saw that everything had been cut out and stuff like that. And Haymitch talks a lot about kind of feeling like the Capitol's plaything. So yeah, we're diving right in on the propaganda thing. I am very excited to see where it goes. Like I said, I just hit chapter 4, haven't read chapter 4 yet. And then I'll give you an update after I'm done with chapter 7, unless something big comes up that I feel like I need to talk about. So back to reading. Okay, so that is the first fourth of the book finished. I just finished chapter 7. Oh boy, guys. Oh boy. Okay, so this is going to be insane to read. If I haven't already indicated that, I'm very aware that this is going to be totally insane to read. Oh, it's so good though. What has been revealed? Okay, so some fun things for those who read and enjoyed the original trilogy. The Mockingjay pin was carved for Maisie Donner by, I can't remember her name Miss Dove. It's something Dove. Lenore Dove. By Lenore Dove's uncle, which is very cool. The other thing that I like gasped out loud at is the mentors for District 12, because they have no winners that they are aware of to mentor them. Ooh, the mentors are Wyrus, who is in Catching Fire and Mockingjay, and Mags. So Wyrus, she's from District 6, I think, off the top of my head, the technology district. And she actually won the year before Haymitch's game, because she basically figured out her arena very similarly to how she did in Catching Fire. She figured out how her arena worked and found a blind spot and waited it out until everybody else was dead, which I thought was a very cool thing. And Mags, if you remember in the original trilogy, doesn't talk. That didn't start after her games, because she is talking to everyone. So she's kind of the head mentor. What else happened? Perhaps the most plot significant thing that happened is during the parade where they introduce all the districts and they're all dressed up and they ride in the chariots to President Snow's house. District 12's chariot went out of control and ended up crashing, and Luella, who Haymitch had made himself like an ally with because they were neighbors, Luella hit the ground and died, which very tragic. So I feel so bad for Haymitch. It's also the day after his birthday. I feel like we can't forget his birthday was on Reaping Day. Anyway, yeah, so she dies instantly, and Haymitch decides to grab her body and take her up to President Snow. And like he grabs her body and gets on a chariot and rides up to President Snow and like displays her body and basically is like, yeah, you wanna take responsibility for this to President Snow. So we have seen President Snow, if you haven't gotten that already, but Haymitch is being very defiant boy. So that's good. And then Maisley is also being really defiant. Like, she is kind of squaring up with anybody who she gets a chance to square up with. I really like that character. And then Wyatt, who is the fourth District 12, is what's known as a Booker boy. So he makes a bunch of bets with his family. But the important part is he has been tracking all of the other tributes. So he knows, because he's a betting boy, he knows who he should bet on. And thus, because he's in the games, knows exactly who's going to be kind of enemy number one. So there's that. And then I think Haymitch is going to start making some alliances with people, because he was approached by, I think, a District 7 boy, and maybe not District 7, a young, like, 12-year-old boy from a different district, and was like, hey, we're building kind of an anti-careers team, because the careers are Districts 1, 2, and 4, and have been training their whole lives for the Hunger Games. But he's like, I'm making the anti-careers, essentially. So it's District 7, 8, and 11 are contemplating, and then he also offered for 12 to be in on it. So I am excited to see how that goes. One of the careers has already signaled that Haymitch is like a big threat and punched him in the training area. And yeah, and Plutarch Heavensby is hanging out and doing a bunch of propaganda media stuff. So I'm excited to see if they're revealing him as a good guy, like if he's been a good guy for like 25 years by the time Mockingjay comes around. So we are excited to see. That is the first quarter of the book. I am going to stop though, because I do have stuff to do tonight. I don't know how much reading I'm going to get done tomorrow either. I'm hoping a bunch, because I'm obsessed. But that's the first quarter of the book, and I will update you when I read my next section of the book. Well. Hi, everyone. Okay, it is the next day. As we recall, I stopped at about the quarter mark yesterday. I've gone ahead and read 2 more chapters because, very conveniently, the break in parts, like it goes into part 2 after chapter 9. So I decided to take a break there. The 2 big things that have happened in these chapters. Ampert, I think is his name, who was that cute little 12-year-old boy who was like, District 12 should be allies with us, you know, is Beetee's son. Beetee, Beetee. He is in the original trilogy. He is one of the former victors who helps Katniss. And when I said Beetee is here, what the heck? It's because he tried to, I don't know, take down the Capitol's communications and didn't realize he got caught. And for his punishment, he has to come to the Capitol to mentor his son, who is a victor in the games. It's also interesting because I think a lot of the power that comes from the original trilogy is the idea like, oh, the tributes are selected randomly, and they seem to be playing, Suzanne Collins seems to be playing a lot with the idea of like, maybe they aren't picked randomly. I do think that's the case with Katniss. Like, I think she was a shock to everybody involved. But I don't know. I'm so compelled by it. I think it's so interesting. But yeah, so that was the important thing that happened. They all of the non-career districts, except I believe for one, decided to ally together to beat the careers. So that we're going to see how that goes. And then finally, the last chapter of part one is Haymitch, because of that show he kind of put on with Luella's death, and like going up to President Snow and clapping for essentially killing Luella. President Snow decides to talk with him. And several things we kind of learn. He is like deeply, deeply ill. Like he, in this book, literally like leans over and starts vomiting blood everywhere. Which obviously was hinted at with the blood throughout the original trilogy. But what is going on? But yeah, he basically is like, you're dead now. I did not like the decisions that you made, so you're dead. Yeah. So, and then of course Snow kind of lets on, as we saw in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, that obviously Snow spent time in District 12, and Haymitch obviously doesn't know that story, but he's talking a lot about District 12 as if he knows it, and it's really psyching Haymitch out. But anyway, that's the end of part one. I want to say there's 3 parts. I don't know that for sure. I want to say Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes had 3 parts also, but you know, we are going to see. Anyway, I'm about to get started on chapter 10, so of course you'll be receiving that. I don't know, I might make it all the way through chapter 14 before you hear another update from me. We're gonna see how it goes. But anyway, I'm gonna keep reading. But the babies, so cute. Okay, so we are halfway through the book. First of all, and most importantly, Miss Effie Trinket has made her appearance. I really like the character of Effie Trinket. I particularly really love Elizabeth Banks's portrayal of her in the original movies. That's an aside. I think she's wonderful. And we're also starting to see kind of more people revealing themselves to be on the side of the districts. Obviously, Plutarch Heavensby has been very clearly on their side. Effie, when she talks, is very sympathetic to them. Obviously, you've got Beetee and Wyrus. We got a lot of people who are already very clearly on their side, and Beetee keeps talking to Haymitch and like about his plan and stuff like that. 2 things that I'm really finding very interesting. First of all, Miss Suzanne Collins, if she is looking at it going, hey, you didn't catch enough Appalachian stuff going on in the first books. Let me give you some real Appalachian, because when I'm reading it in like the Appalachian accent, like the Eastern Kentucky, Western Virginia kind of voice. And if you don't know this about me, I am not originally from Appalachia. I'm not Appalachian, but I currently live near Appalachia. So I'm currently in like central Kentucky, kind of near eastern Kentucky. So while I no means am going to claim Appalachia as my own, because I am not J.D. Vance, I am going to say I just knowing these people really gives me a good sense of like, Haymitch, and when I reread the original trilogy recently, I was like, Miss Katniss is an Appalachian girl. She is a Kentuckian, if I've ever heard one before. So I'm really loving what
Collins is doing with like the voices, and like specifically Haymitch's voice. You can pretty much hear the accent he has, just how he speaks. And another interesting part is this book is about propaganda. That's been made very clear to us. But it's also not going so much onto the side of like all propaganda is bad, because very obviously the heroes of this story are using propaganda to essentially build themselves up. Like Haymitch very much leans into the idea of like, I'm a mining bootlegger, and leans into that. And they do a lot of like TV spots where they're talking about like, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we stand for, stuff like that. And while the Capitol technically controls the narrative, one of the tactics that Plutarch tells Haymitch to go for is, you guys try controlling the narrative. And Plutarch very much, I mean, his weapon of choice is propaganda. So I'm having a really good time reading this. If you haven't told, my one critique as of right now is I think there's a line that you really have to toy with when you're bringing back the amount of characters that you're bringing in. Because, I mean, we've seen Effie Trinket, we've seen Plutarch Heavensbee, we've seen President Snow. Now, President Snow has appeared in all of the books, but regardless, we've seen Katniss's parents, we've seen a ton of characters, and I think that has the potential to get real, I don't know, Marvel movie cameo adjacent, where you're just like, oh my gosh, why are there so many people here? This is not relevant. Right now, halfway through the book, I think Suzanne Collins is doing a great job being like, hey, these characters are here, they're present, they're characters you have met before, but they're not so involved that you're like, what are they just written in to be here? So that's my one thing that I think could be a critique, but I will have to read a lot more of the book to determine that. So all that to say, I'm gonna go ahead and get to chapter 21, hopefully. Of course, gonna sit here and talk when I have more thoughts. But I'm gonna go ahead and get to chapter 21 and hopefully get 3/4 of the way through the book before I go to bed this evening. So I will see you in a few minutes. My makeup is rubbing off, if you can't tell. I just finished part 2. I believe there's 3 parts. There might be 4, but I believe there's 3 parts. I just finished part 2. First of all, probably the most gruesome death in all of the Hunger Games just happened. I'm not gonna be so specific about it because I'd like for this video to not get age restricted. Regardless, though, that was very good. And then, of course, just watching Haymitch, like, go through the games. Obviously, we know him as a mentor, but we've never seen him in the games. And it's an interesting thing. So, I'm really enjoying that. Willow is over there. She is sniffy. But yeah, because we're in the middle of the games, I'm kind of hesitant to be like, here are my thoughts on the whole games, because I like examining them from, like, as a whole. So, I'm probably gonna do that tomorrow. But tonight, I'm sleepy. I had a very long day, so I'm going to take a break. I'm about at page 250 out of 380. So we're making good old progress. We're about 2/3 of the way through. So yippee. Anyway, I will let you guys know my thoughts on what I read tomorrow. Hi. Okay, it's like a day later. I did not get to do very much reading today, but I did just finish 3/4 of the book. So currently we're still in the middle of the games. Unfortunately, excuse me, I find that I'm a lot more invested in the political side of it. I like seeing the Capitol scenes more and like the prep for the Hunger Games rather than the actual like Hunger Games. And we're in the smack middle of the Hunger Games right now. Maisley and Haymitch just found each other, so now they've like partnered up, and they are 2 of the 5 remaining tributes. So yeah, I think it's very good. Once again, we're kind of in a part where I'm like, like it's obviously it's written well. I think Suzanne Collins does a great job, and I don't even necessarily think it's like a low point in the book at all. I think the pacing of it is very, very good, but I find I'm more involved in the political stuff than the games, which is probably why Mockingjay is the best of the original trilogy, because it's almost all politics, essentially. But yeah, all that to say, I did finish 3/4 of the book. I am debating reading maybe 1 or 2 more chapters and going to bed, because I am tired. But there is your 3/4 update, and you will hear from me again probably tomorrow. Okay, hi! I did finish the games last night. Hold on, let me turn off these fans. I finished the games while reading Sunrise on the Reaping. An interesting part, obviously Katniss and Peeta wouldn't know that because the games are so heavily censored and stuff like that, but the fact that Haymitch blew up the arena right after he won is crazy, and I'm excited to learn more about that. But anyway, I read those last few chapters last night and then promptly fell asleep. So I'm just about to get started on my final few chapters. I'm excited to read them. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Okay, so there's B-Boy. Excuse me, sir. So just finished the book. Very good. Very much what I was expecting regarding the ending. But I think that's also due to the fact that we are very familiar with the character of Haymitch, coming into reading the Hunger Games and stuff like that. And most importantly, there's an epilogue that features the best couple, Katniss and Peeta. So, I'm not gonna get into that anymore, because I do want you to be able to read it and enjoy the experience without someone else just telling you exactly what happens all the time. But yeah, very good. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. I don't know if I liked it as much as Ballad, per se. Like, for the most part, this book felt like it was filling in some gaps that we didn't already know. Do you have a pencil? All right. But, you know, I still thought it was interesting. Suzanne Collins still had something to say and made some very interesting, like, parallels to what's going on right now. And that's all I'm going to say. So, yeah, a 10 out of 10 recommend. I think it was a great book, and I do think, and maybe I would need to reread the series, I do think this book is probably the most gruesome. So if you're gonna read it, go into that. But I probably should have set up my big camera to have this discussion. Oh well, c'est la vie. I'll still film my outro. But anyway, those are my thoughts right after reading. I think I'm gonna marinate it on it for a few days, and then I will record like a real outro. So I'll see you in a few days. I went ahead and lent this book to my sister, forgetting that I still had the outro to film. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts about Sunrise on the Reaping. Do you guys have any particular thoughts? You guys should definitely tell me what you're thinking. It's raining really hard, so if you're hearing rain noises, that's what it is. But I liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as, I obviously didn't like it as much as the original trilogy, and I just really liked Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, so I think of the bunch, this might be my least favorite, but by no means does that make it bad. That being said, because it is my least favorite, I can understand why someone might not like it. So let me know in the comments if you liked it or didn't like it. Tell me if there was like a really exciting thing for you, something that you noticed. I only talked about a little bit, a small portion of what happened in the book. So if there was something I didn't bring up that you just would love to talk about with me, please let me know. Please go ahead and tell me. Yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a little like. If you have seen multiple of my videos at this point and liked any combination of them, maybe it's a good idea for you to subscribe. I don't know, could be cool. Yeah. So that's really all I have for you today. Go ahead and check how many inches of rain you've gotten. We have gotten a lot of rain in the last few days. I haven't been able to film this outro because there's been a lot of rain. So go ahead and tell me the number of inches of rain that you guys have gotten wherever you are in the world in the last week. Find a new book that you are excited about, that you really want to read, that you're excited to read. I am really glad I read this book. I had a great time. I was very excited, and you can kind of tell from the way I was reading it. And then, of course, go visit and support your local libraries. I will see you all later. Goodbye!